Thank you everyone for joining us this morning. We are very excited to have with us Diana Oliveros Martinez from the Mexican Consulate of Seattle. We had the pleasure of listening to Diana several weeks ago about all of the services that the consulate provides, specifically in the North Sound region. And we just really wanted to share this with you all. We aim that we think this will be probably the first of several sessions that we'll be providing to the region. Hoping the next one will be in early November, and that one will be in Spanish with either translation live in English or a recording following that. So, but today will be mostly presented in English, but future will be in Spanish. I have a couple reminders. Next slide. Right now, you all should be muted. It just helps with background. We'll have somebody monitoring the chat box, so feel free to put questions in there as Diana is presenting. We should have plenty of time for questions at the end as well. So we'll probably, Diana, leave it up to you if you want to answer questions as they come in, but we have plenty of time for questions at the end. This is recorded and it will be on our, we have a YouTube channel that we put all of our webinar recordings. Before I hand it over to Diana, I am going to do our land acknowledgement. This past Monday was Indigenous Peoples Day. I am residing in Bellingham, where the city of Bellingham refers to it as Coast Salish Peoples Day. And we had some pretty wonderful presentations and events that occurred, and hope that you all were able to listen to some in your area as well. Where I live, this is the traditional homeland of the Lummi Nation and Nooksack tribe. And this is a land acknowledgement that we use from anytime we are starting a meeting or a webinar. A little different when we're virtual, but try to also stick to this and take a moment to acknowledge the Indigenous people. So we begin by acknowledging with humility that the land where we are today is a territory of the people of the Salish Sea. Their presence is imbued in the waterways, shorelines, valleys, and mountains of the traditional homelands of the Coast Salish people since time immemorial. And if you are ever interested in creating your own land acknowledgement for your organization, this link here to Native Land, and we'll put it in the chat box as well. It's a great resource and it tells you where you are today and which land that you are living on. Okay, Diana, I'm gonna switch it. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and I think we'll unmute you and you can take it away.
Perfect. Well, Nicole and Vanessa and Liz, thank you so much for this opportunity, first of all, for having this space. These opportunities to communicate with you are very valuable to us at the consulate. They are a great way of sharing thoughts, sharing the information about the services the consulate has. And these kind of activities, they are very important to us and they are crucial for our outreach, especially nowadays that with the pandemic, we are not able to do the outreach activities in person that we used to do before the pandemic. So I will start the presentation. I will share my screen. And can you see it properly?
Yes,
yep,
we can see
it.
Okay, so well, first of all, this is, I mean, today's session is going to be in English, and this is something that we do not so often, but it's important for us to do it. most of the services we provide and most of the information and sessions and Facebook Live that we offer are offered in Spanish, precisely because we try to cover that part of the need of the Mexican and Mexican American population for whom language is a barrier. However, it's very important to acknowledge that the work we do is and must be binational. I mean, we are taking care of people, Mexican people that live in the US, but the institutions, the partners, the allies, most often than not, their language is English. And it's important to have this session in English as well in order to acknowledge and show appreciation for the work that allies that speak in English do. And it's important to have a communication with you as well and to let you know about the services we have, because most of the times it's you who have the direct contact with the people that we are trying to reach as well. So, well, having said that, I will start with the information. And well, the intention of today's presentation is to talk about the services that a Mexican consulate provides. Mexican consulates are different to other consulates in terms of the capacities that we have and in terms of the topics and the services that we offer. We are the largest consular network in a foreign country that there is in the world. We have 50 consulates in the US. This is huge. I mean, the country that has, like the next country with the most consulates in the US, I don't remember exactly if it's India probably, but it's something around 13 consulates. Mexico has 50 consulates, and it's very much related to the amount of the migration that, or the Mexicans that are living and residing in the US. For that reason, also the consulates through years, they have developed institutional capabilities and a whole list of services that go beyond what a traditional consulate may do. And the idea of this presentation is to introduce you to all those services that you may not imagine that a consulate provides to their population. Well, the Consulate of Mexico in Seattle, well, consulates in general, we tend to divide the portions of territory that we take care of. So each consulate, each one of the 50 consulates in the US, we have a specific territory that we take care of. In the case of the Consulate of Mexico in Seattle, we take care of most of Washington, except for a few counties that are at the south and they are closer to Portland. So it makes more sense for that people to go to Portland instead of Seattle. We also take care of 7 counties in North Idaho and Alaska. We are one of the consulates that cover one of the largest geographical areas among the 50 Mexican consulates in the US. And well, as you may know, consulate's traditional role is to provide documentation services. Here in the slide that I'm showing you, you will see it on the right part of the screen. So whenever a person needs a passport or needs to have a matrícula consular, which is an official ID, or some kind of ID document, the place they should go if they want to have a Mexican ID, it's to the consulate. And that's the most known role that consulates have. The other role that is very well known, especially for people who are not Mexicans, it's the visa section. If someone from another country who needs a visa to go to Mexico is going to travel there, then they should approach a Mexican consulate to get a visa. Another thing that we do on the part of documentation is birth registration, or as people most often know it as doble ciudadanía or double citizenship. This means that since 2015, people who are born in the US, but either father or mother or both are Mexicans, they can obtain the Mexican nationality too, and they can have that document and that registration done at any consulate. So that's the other thing that we've done since 2015. This part has got a lot of relevance, especially during the present US administration, because a lot of people started considering going back to Mexico, to go back to their places of origin, communities of origin. But there are families that are, I mean, the parents came to the US, the parents came to Washington, but the children were already born in the US and they were not registered as Mexicans. So this part of being able to obtain the Mexican nationality for their children born in the US started getting a lot higher demands during recent years. And it's very important. It offers a lot of advantages in these scenarios. Another part that we do is the powers of attorney. This means that if someone needs to appoint someone to make a process, legal process, bureaucratic process, paperwork in their behalf in Mexico or before a Mexican authority, which could be another consulate in the US, they can come to the consulate and order a power of attorney. Most of the times, if people do it with a local attorney, with a U.S. attorney, and they get a power of attorney issued by a U.S. Authority, they will need to have something that it's called apostilla before it's valid in Mexico. In contrast, if they do it here at the consulate, this part, this apostilla process, it's not necessary, and they will be valid automatically before any consulate or before any authority in Mexico. This tool is particularly useful for people who cannot go back to Mexico and they have to make arrangements about properties, selling or buying. It can also be useful for people who got married in Mexico, but now they want to divorce. They have to do it in Mexico too, and usually powers of attorney helps make the process, the legal process in Mexico, even if any of the parties cannot go there. So this part is the most traditional and the most that you are most familiar with, most likely. But there are a lot of other functions that we have that are less known. One of them, I will start with the community affairs, which you can see on the left side of the slide, and I will go with detail. And that's the department that I lead here at the consulate. So this is the community outreach department. We work on two levels. We're based in Seattle and we have a set of services that are designed and coordinated from Mexico by the Institute of Mexicans Abroad, or the Instituto de Mexicanos en el Exterior. So they give us a lot of activities, the strategy, the planning of the activities we do, and they coordinate different agencies in Mexico that offer services to Mexicans in the US specifically. So we receive that information, and the first of our roles as community outreach department is to inform people about those services, let people know that those services are available, that they were made thinking of Mexicans that live here in the US, and how to access those services. Most of the times, those services are provided directly by agencies in Mexico. It could be especially financial services or education services. And what the consulate does is to provide the information so that people can connect with those agencies in Mexico, and they can start having access to those services directly with those agencies in Mexico. The other function that we do, the other kind of work that we do, is that we have to partner with local allies, because nonprofits here in the US, and particularly here in Washington, government agencies, and even companies, you are the ones that are like in the ground, and you are the ones that have the knowledge and the expertise about how the health system works, about how the financial system works, and about how education works. And this is crucial because ultimately, the goal of the community outreach department is to empower Mexican community, Mexican community, to help them improve their livelihoods. And this is very much related about their ability, or our ability as migrants, to learn how those systems work in the US, because most of the times they work very, very differently to how they do back in Mexico or back in our countries of origin. So as you may have realized, we have three main topics that we take care of at the Community Outreach Department. I will talk a little bit about the three of them. The first is about health, and we have a very specific strategy called Ventanilla de Salud, or health window. We also have another part of our services related to financial inclusion or financial literacy. And the other main topic is education opportunities for people of any background almost. The importance of these, and particularly, it's very particular to the Community Outreach Department, is that of course a lot of the services, especially the services that are designed from Mexico, most of the times they are dedicated to Mexican people, although there are a few that are not, that are more open. But the other part, the part of partnering with allies who can help people or who help people navigate these systems, it's a work that it's useful for mostly Hispanic people, regardless of their nationality. And as I mentioned, a few of the programs that we have, especially Ventanilla de Salud and education, they can be accessed by people, even though they are not Mexicans. We have a lot of people from Guatemala benefiting from these, or El Salvador, or Honduras, or other Hispanic-speaking countries that can have access to the services that we offer in terms of health and in terms of education. Then I will start with health. The main strategy that consulates in the US have, it's called Ventanilla de Salud. Ventanilla de Salud is it's a strategy that has something around 20 years now. It's been studied by the World Bank and international organization as a good practice. And it is a strategy through which consulates try to inform people about how to access health services on the one hand, but also to provide information about prevention. We know that because of very different reasons, maybe because language barriers, maybe because a lot of migrant population, they don't have health insurance, and even if they do, sometimes the fees are very high, and sometimes they are an economic burden to families. It also has to do about lifestyles and culture. So we know that most often than not, it happens that people tend to have serious illnesses or chronic illnesses that could have been prevented. So one of the roles of the Ventanilla de Salud is to help people learn how to take care of their health. For that reason, every consulate in the US partners with a local agency that's going to act as a fiscal agency and perform activities related to what I just mentioned. In our case, our partner is CIMAR, and we have been working for them for quite a while now. And it's through them that we implement this Ventanilla de Salud strategy. Of course, what we've done through the Ventanilla de Salud has changed a lot during the pandemic. What Ventanilla de Salud looked like before the pandemic was that every Monday and Friday, we would have a nurse from CIMAR, we would have health promoters and the coordinator of the Ventanilla de Salud here at the consulate, approaching the people who come every day, or all the people that came to the consulate every day to get their documents done, and invite them to come and have basic health tests. We would have back then cholesterol test, glucose, body mass index, blood pressure, HIV tests, done for free for anyone, regardless. I mean, if there was a Guatemalan spouse that came with the wife because she's Mexican and she was getting her passport, we would take everyone that would come here at the consulate. Since the pandemic, as you may imagine, we've had to be very, very careful with the amount of people that we let in the consulate, because we are very aware that this is a high exposure place because of the activities that we do. There's a lot of paper coming and going, and there are like a lot of surfaces that need to be touched for people to complete their documents. So we're a high exposure place, but our priority is to stay open to keep offering the services. So we worked during the pandemic to have a lot of guidelines and measures to make sure that we can offer services in a safe way, in a health way, and that both our users and the staff can stay healthy inside the consulate. Otherwise, if we were to have an outbreak here at the consulate, we wouldn't be forced to close for a while until we control the outbreak in our staff so that we don't infect people coming over. For that reason, activities like Ventanilla de Salud and some other we had that relied heavily on a high amount of people in the consulate had to stop. Then we moved towards virtual activities. And since the pandemic started, we opened a Facebook account, which is Ventanilla de Salud Seattle. You're seeing it on your screen. And that has been the way we are communicating. There you will find videos from local agencies that we've started collaborating in order to provide information about a different set of topics. These videos are important because they will show people with which the community is can relate, or with which community already knows. There are community leaders in their agencies that are also authorized to speak about different topics, and they have been a tool to spread out information about prevention. Another topic that recently we have tried to incorporate the topic into the work of the Ventanilla de Salud is mental health. So you will find there also information about mental health, how to cope with emotional health, where to go, etc. And recently, a few months back, we started a collaboration with Consejo Counseling, so that if we receive people at the consulate that would be in need or would benefit from counseling services, we can refer them to Consejo, and they will assess their situation and they will provide support for them. And at this webpage, we also share infographics from different agencies. You will find information about COVID, of course, where to get tested, food banks. You will find information about what clinics are working. But you will also find information about other topics that, because of COVID pandemic, they have been left a little bit aside. So you will find information about flu shots, and you will find information about women health, about breast cancer. You will find information about nutrition. I remember we had something that was very popular in the page, which was an infographics, but I don't remember which agency prepared it, but it was about how to seat kids during online education so that they don't suffer lesions for being seated in a very big seat that may harm them. So that's the kind of information you will find there. Also, besides Ventanilla de Salud, every year during October, we have the Binational Health Week. And actually, this event is part of that Binational Health Week. All consulates in the US during October, we make a special effort to bring more events and more activities regarding prevention. This year we are counting 20 years of Binational Health Week, and it's grown so that it's not just 1 week, but it actually takes the whole month of October. At the consulate, well, usually we would have health fairs or talks in person in different institutions, but of course this year we had to redesign the activities and have them online. We will have 2 events in person though. One of them is going to be in Auburn this Saturday, and there's going to be mammogram, mammograms not, but dental treatment. There's going to be flu shots, there's going to be basic health screenings, etc. Friday, there's also going to be a mammogram event in Centro Rendu in Kent. And these are the 2 in-person events that we will have. But we will have also virtual events like the one we're having right now. But next week on the 21st, we will have the COVID, it's going to be a Facebook Live about COVID treatments and vaccines. We will have 2 Mexican scientists, 2 women. They are experts in their field, and they're going to talk to us about the importance of vaccination and immunization in general terms, not just COVID. Then we will have another person, a Mexican scientist, talking to us about what's the status of vaccine development in the world, and about the development of treatments when there is, I mean, currently there are no vaccines or no treatments for COVID, but she's going to explain what's happening right now and what are the expectations about different works and research projects. And we will also have people from Fred Hutch who are working a network about developing COVID vaccination, but most importantly, how to make it accessible for the populations that have been struck the most, who have suffered the biggest impact of COVID. And then finally, on the 28th of October, we will have a Facebook session about natural medicine. In Spanish, we know it as traditional medicine. We know that the meaning is different. In the US, traditional medicine means just a regular clinic and medicine and like drug style medicine and treatments. But for Latin Americans, or in Spanish, traditional medicine means natural medicine, means a lot of the treatments that were developed based on plants or on other kind of treatments or measures that are part of our culture as well. So we will have experts from Bastyr University that will be, and also Consejo counseling that will be talking about an introduction to natural medicine, that will be talking about alternative measures to cope with depression, and who will be talking about cancer and natural medicine as well on behalf of Fred Hutch, because I was forgetting, but for that one we will also have someone from Fred Hutch participating. So this is pretty much what we have in health going on right now. We're also trying to strengthen our partnerships with different actors, and we recently run into North Sound ACH, and we really love the work you guys do, and it's very important the role you have, this link between the community and the health providers, and we think that our goals and objectives are pretty much similar, so these kind of partnerships are very useful. Then I will move on. Well, this is the program of the Binational Health Week, which I already talked about, each one of the events. All this information, you'll find it on our webpage, the Consulate's webpage, and our Facebook page that currently is our most important media outlet and communication outlet. So you have the details there. I won't stop I already mentioned most of them. But you will be able to access this information in Facebook. As I mentioned, you will see it down there, the slide, facebook.com/consulmexsea. And at the end, you will also have this information and the web page of the consulate. So moving on to education. This work is very important because, well, depending on the areas and depending community groups, the levels of education can be very, very different. For us here at the consulate in Seattle, the Mexican community we have, it's absolutely diverse. We have a lot of qualified Mexicans working for Amazon or working for Starbucks, Microsoft, you name it. But we also have people who are working in urban services, in construction, in tourism, in hotels and restaurants. We also have people who are working in the fields, in agriculture. We have people from indigenous communities, etc. So in terms of education, the work we have is based on, I would say, 2 main goals. One is to provide access to basic education for people who in Mexico didn't finish elementary school or didn't do elementary school at all, and they don't even know how to read or write. And they feel more comfortable doing it in Spanish before they jump into English. We also, the other goal or the other area that we tackle through our education programs is how to bring the Spanish and Mexican culture and Mexican heritage closer or accessible to Mexican families here in the region that we take care of. So I will briefly describe four services that we have. The first of all is plazas comunitarias. Some of you might be familiar with the Plaza Comunitaria in the Farm Workers Center in Mount Vernon. There's another Plaza Comunitaria in Everson, a water garden Plaza Comunitaria. And these plazas comunitarias, they are like schools for adult education. We have an institution in Mexico that designs all the curriculum for these plazas comunitarias, and here people can come and learn, starting from reading and writing, like basic alphabetization, no, literacy, sorry, basic literacy. But they can also study the first 9 levels of elementary education. This is important because, as you may know, a lot of, well, access to higher paying jobs require people having a GED. So a lot of people are aiming at obtaining their GED, but if there are people who only studied up until 2nd grade in Mexico, there is a gap between their knowledge in 2nd grade and the knowledge that they need to pass a GED exam or to obtain a GED certification. So the plazas comunitarias, what they do is fill in this gap, because they let people study the 9 levels of elementary school. Even, I mean, sometimes there have been cases where the materials from plazas comunitarias help people pass the GED in Spanish, which means that the materials and the programs provided through plaza comunitarias, they can go long ways in terms of letting people access certifications and access better jobs. These programs are tailored to adult needs, considering they have families, considering they have to work. They are not like regular students, like young students that can study full time. So that's one of the advantages of the plazas comunitarias. And of course, they are free. They are open to anyone, regardless of migration status. And anyone, any nationality can go there, can study, and can receive an official certificate once they finish primaria and secundaria, which are from 1st to 6th grade, primaria, and from 7th to 9th for secundaria. And they will get a certificate. It's going to be official. It's going to be issued by the Mexican government, but it's good for anyone regardless of their nationality. And we've known of cases that people in Central America, particularly maybe Guatemala, maybe El Salvador or Honduras, this document will help them prove that they have elementary school once they go back to Honduras or to their countries of origin. Then another service that we have, you're going to see it on the top left part of your screen. It's the textbooks donations. Every year we have something around 50 collections to donate to institutions that can make them available to a number of families and students so that they can benefit from these books. Each collection has around 50 books, and it contains the materials that children use in Mexico in elementary school from 1 to 8th grade. And they will have math, they will have natural sciences, they will have history, they will have civic education, they will have all the subjects that children take in Mexico at school. These are for free, and we offer them for institutions through the consulate. It's very easy. You just have to reach out to us. There's a very short format. It's very easy to fill out, and we need to arrange how you're gonna pick up the boxes, or have someone pick them up, or pay for the delivery. That would be the only case. On another service, we know that very often people go back to Mexico and their kids need to go back into the education system in Mexico, but they have the transcripts from the US. And the way the grades are done here in the US, it's absolutely different than what we have in Mexico. In Mexico, we have one system for the whole country, for all schools, that goes from 1 to 10. Whereas here in the US, sometimes we found that even schools in the same school district, they have a different way of grading students. So when they bring their transcripts to Mexico, and in schools in Mexico, they don't really know what a 2+ means, or they don't know what a B means, or whatever. So what we do is we take these transcripts. We have a way of making, of translating, so to say, the grades into the Mexican system. So the kids bring their US transcript and the transfer document with the grades translated into the Mexican grading system. And that's much easier for the teachers or authorities in Mexico to know what level they have and where to best allocate them once they go back to Mexico. This works for the first 9 grades of education. And well, finally, in terms of education, I want to talk to you about the Guía Educativa, which is kind of a catalog of the services that we offer. What I've talked about, you will find it there. It's accessible online. You will find the link also in our webpage. And it's very useful to have information, to have referrals about how to get access to all these different services. Finally, I was almost missing it. We have IME Becas, which is a yearly program in which the Mexican government provides funds for adult education or higher education directed toward Mexicans or Mexican Americans. This year's call for applications already passed, but we usually have it once a year. I would like to talk to you very quickly about an activity that's ongoing, and since you are in this area, you might be interested. We are launching with Letty, which is a nonprofit located in Linwood. This is a program which intends to help parents who don't know how to use the smartphones be on Facebook and WhatsApp, and it intends to help them know how to better make use of it and the tools and the services so that they can have access to a wider range of services, especially now in the pandemic, where a lot of, I mean, if you think about medical appointments, a lot of them are through Zoom, but a lot of people, they don't know how to use Zoom. And kids education, online education, sometimes it's a barrier for the parents that they don't know how to access the websites, or they don't know how to handle a computer or a cell phone. So this program is intended at helping people learn how to best use their smartphones to access those services. It's going to be free. There are time slots both in the morning and the evening for those, to accommodate different needs. And there's information if anybody is interested. It's a matter of sending a WhatsApp there, and this information, you'll find it also in our Facebook page. Then I will move on to financial education or financial literacy. Here, the most useful things I will talk to you about, it's the MAEX, which is a service we have at the consulate. It's called Módulo de Atención en el Exterior. And people who come to the US, very often they make use of financial services in Mexico. This means bank accounts, debit accounts, pension funds, insurances, saving accounts, loans, etc. So whenever they have a question about how to handle those services in Mexico, or they have a complaint, or they know, or they need to know how to access those services, even if they are here in the US and cannot come back to Mexico, we can, most of the times those questions are very specific, and here at the consulate, we may not be in the best position to answer such specific questions. But that's why we have MAEX, because we send those questions there. It's an online platform that we can access from the consulate. And specialists in Mexico, people who know how these financial services work, they will provide an answer to the person who's having the question here in the US. We also have information about retirement and pension funds in Mexico. We know them as Afore, which is the Fondo para el Retiro, because a lot of people have their pension funds in Mexico. They are not aware of that, and they can actually find them, locate them, and keep putting money to save for their retirement. We have the information. There is a specific number that people can call to have information about this. And there is also a service for people who want to open a bank account in Mexico, which is sometimes very important to have control on their money. This service is available for people here in the US, and we can also provide information about it. I'm finished with the community outreach services, but I want to go very, very quickly about the protection and legal affairs departments, which is another area of the consulate. This area, they are the ones who step in whenever a person is in a vulnerable situation or has a legal process going on and needs orientation or assistance. They can offer information in terms of immigration law, criminal cases, administrative cases, labor, and family. They also take care of emergencies. Emergencies, I'm not talking about someone who needs to get a passport because they have a flight to Mexico and they just realize the passport is outdated. That's not an emergency per se, and not, at least not the one that the Protection and Legal Affairs Department takes care of. We're talking more about people who got detained, who are in prison and needs assistance from a consular office. We're talking about someone who died and their remains need to be taken back to Mexico. Those are the emergencies that we are talking about. So that's the emergency line. It's not for general information. It's not to get information about appointments at the consulate. It's for the emergencies I just mentioned. This number, in contrast, people can access it every day, 24/7, and that's good for general information. They will have information about consular activities and services, information about immigration policy in the US, and because sometimes it changes very rapidly. So if you want to know what's the current status on DACA, you can call there. It's also helpful when someone is trying to locate a missing person that they knew they were coming from Mexico and they lost track of them. This SIAM number can help them connect with the consular network and try to see if this person is in a hospital or got detained somewhere in the US on their way to the place where they were supposed to arrive. Finally, because this has been the most common question since we reopened mid-July, it's how to get an appointment. I haven't had a chance to see the questions in the chat box, but I'm sure a lot of them are related to how to get an appointment and why it's so difficult to get an appointment. This is something that we are aware that there is a high demand. And it's very important to let you know how we are working and how we are handling the situation. As I mentioned through the presentation, during the pandemic, we had to do a lot of adjustments. Back before the pandemic, there were times where we would have 50 people sitting in the waiting room of the consulate, because there would be the one person who was going to get the passport, but then that person would come with the spouse, with the kids, with a neighbor that drove them to the consulate. So there was a whole bunch of people being here inside of the consulate, and that was good because that also allowed us to do a lot of outreach activities. However, right now that's not possible. And as I mentioned before, we have to be very careful about the amount of people that we are letting inside the building, not just because of safety, but also because we need to comply with the public health policies, regulations, and guidelines. So we have to reduce the amount of appointments so that we can keep distance both between the people who are coming to get their documents, but also between our staff. We have to reduce the number of appointments. We have to rearrange schedules so different documents are provided at different times during the day. And we also changed the way to make appointments. For passports, matrícula consular, voting card to vote in Mexico, which is the main ID in Mexico, cartilla militar, the carta de antecedentes penales, and certified copies of birth registration. The appointments need to be done through Mexitel, which was the regular and most common way of getting appointments before the pandemic. Then for powers of attorney, you will find the email address and the phone number there in case someone needs to get an appointment to get a power of attorney. They have to call directly or write directly to this email address and phone number. And same goes for birth registration. The recommendation is that people go through the website before sending an email so that they know what are the requirements, and maybe they can send the documents in advance, and then that will make things much faster. It's very important that if they call, most of the times they need to leave a voicemail, and it's very important that the voicemail includes their contact details. Otherwise, it will be impossible to call back to them. We have a high demand. We have a high demand of appointments for all documents. And what we've done is that we've been opening slots every 2 weeks so that the wait might be not too long, so that people know that every 2 weeks, more or less, we're opening the appointments for the first half of the month or the second half of the month. We advise people, especially for passports and matrículas consulares and voting cards, to call every day because appointments run out real quickly. So it's important to be calling very often so that once the appointments are open, they can get one. In case of emergencies, we know that some people cannot wait to find an appointment because they have a deadline by the attorney because they are arranging their migration status, or because they need to travel in an urgent matter to Mexico because they have a familiar, a relative that is very sick in hospital, or they already passed away and they need to travel urgently to Mexico. We can handle those situations. And what people need to do is they need to write an email to Seattle, as in Consulate in Seattle, at sre.gov.mx. And it's important that people explain the situation, but include a document proving that they are in an emergency situation. That can be the letter of the attorney indicating that they have a deadline to present a passport or a valid ID. It could be something from the IRS indicating the deadline for the tax registration or for obtaining the ITIN. It can be a letter from a doctor indicating that the relative in Mexico is in a very serious or grave health situation, or it could be the death certificate in case of relatives who passed away in Mexico and they are going to visit the family. So that's the way we handle that. Finally, I'm almost running out of time, but just want to let you know what you can expect or what people can expect when they visit the consulate in terms of COVID adaptations. The using of masks inside the building is mandatory. We ask people to arrive 15 minutes in advance because we need to be very sharp with the time, and we cannot allow people to go in to take their appointment if they are late. This is because they will delay the process, and we modify our processes so that everything is as efficient as possible. So we can't take appointments if people arrive late. That's why we advise them to arrive 15 minutes earlier. We're not allowing other people rather than the one who's going to do the document in the consulate. If they need assistance, if it's minors, if it's someone with a disability, then someone can come and help them. We ask people to stay home if they feel bad. We will have temperature control before entering the building. And for most of or all of the services, nowadays an appointment is needed. Finally, we've been adapted by doing everything online and communicating everything online. So I pretty much encourage you to visit the Facebook page. We have been launching for some time it was every Thursday, and then now it's once a month. In the section, in video section, we have sessions around 30 minutes long about how to get a passport, about how to do the birth registration, about how to get a power of attorney, and they are explained there in great detail. They are a great resource for people who need to know the specifics of each service. And we also schedule all, our events in the event section. So pay attention to whatever is going on through the consulate, and offered on the consulate most of the times is Facebook Live sessions, and they have been very, very useful. Finally, just in time, this is contact information. I mentioned it through the presentation. This Mexitel is for most common appointments, passports mainly. CIAM, which is the number for general information. These are below our Facebook and Twitter social networks. The address of the consulate, because we moved 2 years ago now, but sometimes there are still people who don't know that we have a new address. This is the main number. And the email address that I mentioned, so in case of people who need a passport in an urgent way, conseattle@sre.gov.mx, it's there. The emergency number, which once again, it's not for, this one won't take questions about passports or other documents, and the website. So that would be all on my end. I'm sorry I wasn't able to take questions during the presentation, but I'm more than happy to answer them now, from now on.
Thank you so much, Diana. And we have time. We were scheduled to go to 11:30, so we have time for questions. If anyone has any, please put them in the chat box. And can also unmute folks one by one if you want to talk.
Maybe, I don't know if it would be useful if I leave the last slide in case people want to keep writing down the contact information. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. In the chat box. I'm not sure how to access.
Diana, I can start. I'll ask a question since
yeah.
no one started. Can you share a little bit more about the Window into Health program, and kind of like what does it look like in the North Sound region? I know you said that some things have changed because of COVID, but perhaps maybe just share a little bit more of in the past what's happened, and if there's, we've talked that might be where we dive in a little bit deeper in a future webinar, but would love to hear just a little bit more details on that for our region.
Yes, well, in the past, as you know, there was the consulate in Wales, which is on standby right now. Especially in Mount Vernon, in Bellingham, which are the locations that we used to cover with the consulate on Wales a few months ago, we would invite different agencies to go there and provide information. And one of our most important partners were CMAR, with the health promoters program that they have. So they would be present the day of the consulate on Wales, giving out information to the people who approached. And they were also very helpful, and we appreciate the support that they gave us, because very often they would also help us with translation for people who didn't speak English, because we know in the North Sound there are a lot of people who speak different indigenous languages. And in the consulate, we don't have translators. As you know, there are 68 indigenous languages in Mexico, so it's impossible to have translators for all of them. We know Mixteco has, a real wide number of variations. So it's very difficult that, for the consulate to have interpreters, but we rely on partners such as CMAR or the Farm Worker Center, who may help us with this kind of activities. In terms of the Ventanilla de Salud or the health window, most of the work was focused here in the consulate, because here in the consulate, we would receive people from all around the state. We would have people, from Mount Vernon, but also from Bellingham or from Everson, but all the same, we would have people from Longview or Eastern Washington, Spokane, Yakima, Wenatchee, Brewster, etc., coming every day to the consulate. So the Ventanilla de Salud would work here at the consulate, taking care of the visitors that we would receive at the consulate. One of the advantages of the pandemic in terms of the Ventanilla de Salud is that it has allowed us, and it has opened up the idea of doing more events online, which help us have a wider reach of people. And we also rely on, well, we have a lot of support also from local organizations who help us share the videos in their local Facebook pages whenever we have Facebook Live, or they take the videos from the web page and share them in their pages so that people can have access to that information. But if you want me to give some more detail or elaborate on something particular, just let me know.
Oh, that was a great overview. It looks like we got a question from Liz Baxter. She's asking if you can share a bit about how you are connecting individuals and families to COVID testing sites, masks, and other protective items, and perhaps what role the consulate plays in that.
Yeah, it's mostly through information. We ask organizations and allies if they want us to share information on our Facebook page. That's something we can do, and it's very useful. We have something more about something around 18,000 followers on our Facebook page, so it's a useful amount of people that we cover, and we are more than happy to help there, which is our, as I mentioned, is our most important communication tool right now. We can share the information there, and we can make it available to the people who visit our Facebook page. That's mostly the work we have been done. Also, if someone comes and asks us, it's helpful for us to have that information so that we can refer them. This doesn't happen very often though, but that's something we can do.
Great, thank you. Okay, are there any other questions for Diana? Just give it a little bit of time.
I'm seeing in the chat box that if anyone wants more information about anything that I mentioned during the presentation, there are the email addresses of Nora and Daniela. So it's in the chat box. You can write them down and send follow-up questions there too.
Yeah. Okay, well, if there are no more questions, just as a reminder, we've been collecting kind of the links that people have been sharing. A couple partners have shared their own resources. So we'll collect those and include them as a follow-up. Because you all registered, luckily we have everyone's contact information. And as mentioned in the beginning, we're planning to do another information session, learning session with Diana and her team, hopefully in early November. And we will send the invitation out to all you who have registered for this one, and invite you to share that out with anyone and the rest of your team. But Diana, I just want to thank you so much. This is, I feel like I have heard this before, but now I've learned even more in this second session, and it's just incredible the amount of the spectrum of the work that you all are doing, and how that is helping families and communities in our region. So I'm looking forward to learning more about it. I just really want to thank you so much for joining us and our team today.
Thank you for organizing this, and once again, feel free to reach out if you have any questions, of there's anything that you think the consulate can step into and help or support in any way.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.